Just imagine, a regular guy from your neighborhood, the kind who collects garbage every day, turns out to be a gangster. That's exactly what happens in today's story. The story begins with a man named Clean, who worked collecting garbage from the streets. He lived in a city where thugs roamed freely and caused trouble without fear. In his day-to-day life, Clean would often pick out broken things from the trash. After repairing them, he'd sell them at his friend's shop to make some money and survive. Clean was divorced, and after the separation, he started living in a workshop. He had a daughter once, but she passed away a long time ago due to illness. He missed her deeply, and her memories haunted him constantly. Maybe that's why he began watching over a young girl named Diana who lived nearby. She was an orphan living with her grandmother. Clean saw a glimpse of his daughter in her. Taking care of Diana gave him a sense of peace, as if he was making up for the loss of his own child. Meanwhile, we're introduced to another man named Michael. He's standing outside the jail, waiting for his son, Mikey, who is about to be released. But then Mikey's friends showed up to pick him up, and Mikey decided it was better to go with them instead of his dad. Michael got really angry about it, but he didn't say anything and let it slide. Later that evening, while Clean was picking up trash in the area, he saw Michael and his men doing some shady stuff outside Michael's restaurant. They were carrying dangerous weapons too, but Clean didn't want any trouble, so he quietly kept doing his work. Besides running the restaurant, Michael was also involved in illegal business. He used to smuggle drugs from China into his area. The drugs were hidden inside fish. Michael would take the drugs out and then sell the fish in the market like normal. That night, Michael was angry because the shipment from China didn't meet the deal they had agreed on, and this was going to affect Michael's business badly. Anyway, the next morning, Clean saw Diana walking to school. She told him that the school bus didn't come to their area anymore, and her grandma's car had broken down, so now she had to walk. Hearing that, Clean offered to drop her off at school. After returning from there, Clean took out his daughter's bicycle and quietly left it outside Diana's house. But Diana's grandmother, Ethel, saw him doing this and immediately came outside. She asked Clean why he was so attached to her granddaughter. Clean replied that doing this helped him feel a little less guilty about his past mistakes. Hearing that, Ethel told him that he was a good man at heart. Meanwhile, Michael was involved in the local drug trade, but when another batch of poor quality drugs came in from China, he lost his temper. He completely lost control and, in a fit of rage, beat the drug carrier to death. Mikey saw the whole thing happen right in front of him. Watching his father's brutal actions, he just stood there frozen in shock. Michael was a feared gangster, and all the thugs in the city were scared of him. He had a lot of power and influence, and because of that, his anger was dangerous. He wouldn't even hesitate to kill someone in broad daylight. Later that night, when Clean came to pick up the garbage from Michael's restaurant, he couldn't ignore the strong smell and the bloodstains scattered everywhere. He tried to figure out where the smell was coming from, but just then, Michael came up from behind, handed some money to Clean, and asked him to wipe off the bloodstains. But Clean didn't want to get involved in something like that, so he flat out refused and went back to work. A few days later, while Clean was on his way to work, his car broke down in the middle of the road. Within moments, he saw a man being chased by a group of thugs. They caught him and dragged him to some abandoned place nearby. Then they all started beating him up badly. Seeing this, Clean rushed to help, but one of the goons hit him hard on the head from behind, and he passed out on the spot. When Clean finally woke up, he found himself in a hospital. The doctor told him, "You're lucky to be alive. With the kind of head injury you had, you could have died right then and there." He was advised to stay in the hospital for a few days and take his medicine, but Clean got up and went straight home instead. On the way, he saw Diana hanging out with some thugs. Worried for her, he asked her to come home with him. But Diana snapped back, saying, "Look, uncle, you're not my father, so don't even try to act like one, alright?" After that, those thugs also started harassing Clean. At first, Diana didn't want to go with him, but when she saw how badly they were treating Clean, she changed her mind and went back home with him. Meanwhile, Michael was having a heated argument with his son Mickey. Mickey was more interested in hanging out with his friends than helping with the family business, and Michael was furious about it. The fight got so intense that Mickey pulled out a knife and threatened his own father, saying he wouldn't hear a single bad word about his friends. Then he stormed out of the house. That night, Clean saw Diana's bicycle parked outside an abandoned house. It was the same place where those thugs usually hung out. When Clean went inside, he found them trying to assault Diana. They were forcing her to take drugs and alcohol, and they had even recorded a video of it to blackmail her. Without thinking twice, Clean grabbed a metal rod and attacked them. He beat those guys up so badly that he broke their bones. But after the fight, Clean realized that one of the boys he had just beaten up was Michael's son, Mickey, and he was seriously hurt. But Clean immediately picked up Diana and left the place before anyone could find out. After spending many days in the hospital, Mikey finally returned home. The doctor who had treated him told Michael that although Mikey's body would heal, his face would never look the same again because the injuries were too deep. There was only one way to fix his face now: plastic surgery. The doctor also said Mikey would never be able to speak again because his vocal cords were badly damaged. He strongly advised that surgery be done immediately, or Mikey's condition would get worse. But it seemed like Michael didn't care much about his son. He left Mikey to suffer, as if he wanted to punish him for not listening to his father. A few days later, a police officer named Frank showed up. He had video footage from that day. It clearly showed that it was Clean who had attacked everyone. Michael already knew that Clean was close to Diana and her grandmother, so he ordered Frank to kill both of them, but told him to capture Clean alive and bring him in. From all this, it was clear that the local police were completely under Michael's control. Clean knew that Michael would definitely take revenge for what had happened to his son. So without wasting any time, he left the city with Diana and her grandmother. But on the way, the police stopped them and asked Clean to pull over. At first, Clean thought about surrendering himself to the police so that Diana and her grandmother's lives would be safe. But then he realized something wasn't right. The police were working with Michael too, so he immediately stepped on the gas and sped away from there. After escaping the police, Clean stopped at a restaurant. While Diana and her grandmother went to the restroom, Clean broke into a parked car nearby and came up with a plan to use it to escape. But just then, Michael's men spotted Clean's car outside and entered the restaurant. Diana and Ethel saw them too and quickly started looking for another way out. At the same time, Clean came in through the back door after noticing Michael's men. Suddenly, he took out all of them one by one. Then he rushed to Diana and her grandmother, who were hiding in the storage room. They had just seen Clean skillfully taking down Michael's men like a pro. So finally, he had no choice but to tell the truth about who he really was. He used to be a feared serial killer, but after his daughter died, he gave up that life and left the city. He started working as a garbage collector so that no one would find out about his dark past. After getting Diana and Ethel to a safe place, he went back to his house to grab some money. Then he went to a friend's shop and bought some weapons, getting ready to face Michael and his gang. That's when Frank told Michael that Clean wasn't just some ordinary guy. He was actually a deadly killer who had once terrified the city. Back in the day, people in the underworld used to call him the Angel of Death. Then, Clean called Michael and told him he was coming to settle the score. Michael knew his end was near, so he quickly gathered all his men and armed them to the teeth. Meanwhile, Clean got his weapons ready and set out for Michael's house in his garbage truck. And without any warning, he rammed the truck straight into Michael's house. The impact knocked out the power, and the entire place was plunged into darkness. Even in the darkness, Clean skillfully took out all of Michael's goons one by one. Then, while he was searching for Michael suddenly ambushed him by slamming a cupboard into him. A fierce fight broke out between them, but Clean managed to knock him out with just a few solid punches. Just as Clean was about to finish Michael off, Mikey appeared and pointed a gun at Clean. Seeing him, Michael smiled, thinking his son was going to shoot Clean. But instead, Mikey turned the gun on his own father and shot him dead. After that, Mikey tried to shoot Clean too, but his gun was out of bullets. And just like that, Clean got away. Finally, we see Diana riding her bicycle. Her neighborhood was now free from gangsters and thugs, all because of Clean. Suddenly, she stopped for a moment and smiled, because Clean was driving toward her in his garbage truck. And that's where the story ends. If you had fun watching, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear from you.